Hello everyone and welcome to JB's Total Gaming, where today I'm going to be talking about Path of Exile. So Path of Exile, as you can probably tell right away, is basically a Diablo clone sort of game where you're going to be, killing stuff to get loot so that you can kill better stuff. Basically, Circle of Life, Circle of Death, whatever you want to call it. And I'm playing here a Fire Totem Witch. Now, here's one of the things about this game, because I want to get into, who would like it, who would not like it, and basically, is this game going to be worth your time? And the first big positive I'm going to say right off the bat is customization. Because I can play as a Flame Totem Witch, I can play as a Flame Totem, I can't remember what the Barbarian type is, I can play as a Flame Totem Templar. Basically, any character can play almost anything. Now, certain classes may not be able to play certain builds as well, but that doesn't mean you can't play it. Or you might just have to play it slightly differently and get access to things at different times. And that's one huge thing I'm going to say is the positive. So we're going to talk about some of the positives first, is the level of customization. So right here, this is the passive skill tree. Yep. It is absolutely ridiculous. And basically, whatever class you choose is going to be your starting position on this tree. So let's say if I started, over in this direction more, I would be able to get to this stuff. I just might have to travel longer. Where this one I started here and I basically had a choice between these two as my first passive upgrade. This tree is kind of ridiculous, and you're not going to have unlimited points throughout the game. But if there's a build you want to do, you can probably do it. Your starting stats are a little bit different depending on what class you pick and stuff like that. But other than that, like I said, you can pretty much do what you want. So there's a huge level of customization in how your character levels up with that passive tree. And most of those stats are passive, but they range a great deal in what they're capable of doing. Some are just straight stat upgrades, but some of them get into crazy stuff. Like I eventually, actually, let me see if I'm getting attacked here. Nope. Alright, so I eventually might want to get over to, where did it go? Oh yeah, here. So, Ancestral Bond, there's basically just regular stat buffs like increased spell damage, and then these cooler ones that have, these bigger points that have multiple stuff, and then these really big ones. So, I can basically summon 2 totems instead of just 1, except I can't do anything else. None of my other skills can deal damage. I can set traps and things like that, but I can't have any other offensive spells. So there are trade-offs to those big ones, but having 2 totems can be a big deal, as you saw how much damage just one of my totems is able to do. Now, I'm pretty early in the game. I just completed the first act, but basically, those are decisions you're going to make, so that while that passive tree looks ridiculous at first, you spend some time with it, look at some forums, look at some videos or whatever, and you should be able to get a decent idea of what you want to do, what paths you want to go down, and how you best want to do that with your character. And obviously there are going to be options within that as well. So customization is huge. Now, another interesting thing about this game, about the customization, is you notice I haven't talked about skills. That's because, well, you don't really get skills in a normal way. When you level up, you get a kind of flat stat increase, but then you get a point on that passive tree, and there's some other things that might give you a point on that tree from time to time. It's different quests or things like that, but basically that's about it. So how do you get skills? Well, you get skills with gems. So there are gems that you can put into gem slots on your items, and they basically give you skills. Like this one is a fireball skill, this one is a firestorm skill. You can also have linked gems. So for example, these 3 are all linked. So this here is a kind of magma sort of spell. This is my Flame Totem spell, but I could, add lightning damage to another thing. I'm basically just leveling this one up. But later in the game, you're going to have gems linked to each other, basically giving passive buffs or all kinds of crazy stuff to other ones. You might have, for example, later on in this build, I'm going to want to get an ability that basically makes me immune for a few seconds, but instead of me manually activating it, you can use a gem to set it up to trigger when you take damage. So when you get hit, you're invulnerable for a brief time afterwards, and it will trigger automatically based on a certain amount of damage based on the certain level of gem that I have. So you level up your stats not by spending points, but basically by having a gem activated. And you don't even have to be using it. I don't have, I can have a gem in my character build that I'm not currently using. It's activated skill or whatever, or, buffing something that doesn't actually do any good on, but it's still leveling up as I'm killing enemies. And that's how stats are basically leveled up in the game, or skills are leveled up in the game. So I was just checking if any of these things are good stuff to pick up. So it's a really unique way of doing things, and there's a lot of variety in the ways you can make characters. So a ton of customization is a definite positive. Alright, positive number 2, you can make changes as you go. So basically there are things called regret points or something like that, where you can take stuff out of that passive tree. It's not like an unlimited ability you have. You can actually craft things that let you do that. So if you messed up on build, or you basically wanted to build for a certain while and then at a higher level wanted something different, you do have the ability to do that. And just to show you real quick, on this item, it's showing that basically this is a common item. There are 3 red gem slots in it, and 2 of those red are linked. So that's kind of what's going on there. So there is the ability to change stuff as you go. Another really cool thing about the game is the way potions work. So if I want to, let's say I'm going to take a little bit of damage and I'm going to use a health potion. Alright, so I'm not taking a lot of damage because I shouldn't use my totem. My totem's taking everything out. Okay, I'm going to take some hits. I have my shield going down, so I do have kind of an energy shield. Now I'm taking hits. I'm going to use my health potion. It doesn't actually use a potion the way normal games do. Notice my potion is still there. You have a certain number of potion slots, and they basically, you use a portion of it whenever you use it, depending on whatever the potion actually is, and then you refill it by killing enemies, and all potions work that way. Health potions, mana potions, or there are other potions that have special effects, like giving you speed. There are potions that do a combination of things. So the potion system is awesome. Instead of collecting, 600 potions, you get potions, and then you slot them, and then you refill them as you basically kill enemies. Alright, so I've got some bad auras going on me here. So let's get another totem up and wreck these dudes. Okay. And I think this is, kind of like a tougher mob that we ran into here that had some special abilities that's kind of random. So one more positive of the game, there is a really nice online component, and also different servers. So you can play on a server that totally allows PvP everywhere, or a server that you have to request to do PvP. And that's pretty interesting. But in general, this instance is just mine. Or if I team up, other people can come in with me, and then they'll join me in this instance. And then obviously the monsters will scale up and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So you can form teams and do all that. But if I go to the town up here, then there's going to be other players there. So that's pretty neat. One last aspect of this game that I really like is this game is free. And when I say free, I legitimately mean free. So I think we have some people probably give us some quest or whatever. But what I mean by legitimately is I recently looked at Marvel Heroes 2016, and basically it's free, but if you want new characters you can pay $10 or whatever. No, this game is free. There are things you can buy, but the things are totally cosmetic. You can, where I actually just got to this town. Let's go to my stash over here somewhere. My stash has got to be somewhere. Oh, well, anyways, you can buy extra, space, basically, in your stash or whatever, but for the most part, the upgrades are cosmetic. So we see this guy here with, this glowing weapon here. That may have been, a cosmetic upgrade he bought or whatever. So this isn't really a pay-to-win game. This isn't a game that, bugs you with, hey, buy this, buy that, or whatever. You can play multiple characters, play all the way through the game, totally free. And basically, the model of this game seems to be, a lot of people really like the game, play it a lot, and they're impressed that the game is free. So they basically throw a few bucks here or there on the cosmetic stuff to look cool because the developer deserves it. And this model has been working for quite some time. This game has been out for a while. So one last positive too, they are updating the game constantly. There's an update again dropping, I believe, at the start of March. So a totally free game that you can throw some money at if you want to, but they don't bug you about it. A game that's updated a lot. A game that really has pretty sweet gameplay. So what did I say about Marvel Heroes I didn't really like? Not a lot of deep customization, and you have to pay for heroes in this. This game avoids both of those things. Now, I don't have a lot of items that I picked up, but let's get into some of the negatives of this game. And this is something that might be not considered negative for experienced players, but it is negative, in my opinion, for new players. So when I go to sell an item, so I get this little thing here, this scroll fragment. There is no gold in this game. The currency system is super weird. So basically, items are going to get you these things you put together, and then you can make identification scrolls, and then there's other levels of items get you other things, and then you can combine items in order to get higher level things and whatever. It's super odd. Not only is that not really explained well, because it's kind of like a barter system, but on top of that, there are combinations of things you can do. Like, if I have a full set of a certain level of item, and that includes like everything you see here, helmet, necklace, rings, whatever, that'll do a certain thing. If I do other combinations of like a ring plus this plus that, and then it'll have other effects on the game. The systems, I'm just going to say it, they're really kind of obfuscated almost for new players. So not only is there this huge tree that if you don't do your research, you're not going to have any idea what to do when you're building your character, but when you're selling items, there are certain groups of items you want to save up, certain items that aren't worth selling at all, and like all of it is super complicated. They're called vendor recipes, and if you look online for the vendor recipes, you will be shocked by how many there are, and then there's debates over which ones are useful and which ones are worth doing. Like, here's a really good example. This item here. So it has a red, blue, and green, which are 3 colors of gems you can put in the game, all linked together. This is called you could call it a chromatic item, because if you trade it in, instead of getting a normal thing, you get what's called a chromatic orb, which you can then use to modify the gems and other items, I think. It's super weird, and it's not explained well at all. So you basically need to know someone who plays the game, or look this stuff up online, and then play the game. So there's kind of a lot of obfuscation between what gems you could get. So I mean, these are gems I have now, but I can look up online what gems I'm potentially going to get in the story, and I can go to vendors and that. But it's kind of hard to do a build based around what abilities you're going to have if you don't know what abilities you're going to have later in the game. So that's kind of odd, and I just think it's really tough on new players. And so that's kind of my main issue of the game. Now, experienced players are probably going to be like, oh, don't whine, it's not that complicated or whatever. But, well, here's the thing. I don't want to have to do homework to play a game. I want a game to be reasonable, and I feel like there's a way to do a lot of customization without, and make that information available. And I feel like that information isn't very available to the player as they play the game. But maybe that's just me. But that's really my big negative, is just trying to, having to figure out what everything does, how it all works, what you're going to have available later on. There are some other things I'm going to say are kind of maybes of the game. So one thing I'll say is, the graphics is totally up to you. Newer games maybe look a bit nicer than this one. This is a little bit of an older game, and it is a free-to-play game. So I feel like you can look at the graphics one of two ways. You can say, oh, they're not as good as this game or that game. Or you can say, hey, this is an older game that they're still updating, and it's absolutely free. The graphics are amazing. And that's kind of up to you. So that's one of the things I'm going to say is neither here nor there. The whole skill gem thing, I think, is something that you might really like, or you might hate. It depends on you. Overall, I think I like it, but it is tricky because I don't really get to see what sort of stuff I'm going to get later in the game, unless I want to look that up online and see what's available, what, is easily purchasable, what is, something that's a little bit more difficult to get, what am I going to get, basically choices of automatically as a part of quest. So that's a little bit weird, but it is pretty neat that as I play the game, I can just find a new gem, buy a new gem, and suddenly I have a new skill, or I can buff a skill I had previously, or I can do a neat combination, and then because maybe I have this neat combination, but maybe I don't have armor that has a link that I want, so I can either try to buy or try to upgrade armor so that it has the link I want. So it's definitely an interesting mechanism, the whole idea of the skill gems. Whether or not it's good or not, that's up to you. So that's another neither here nor there. So the other thing that I'm going to say is up to you as a gamer is just the complexity in general. So I said I really want more customization in a game like Marvel Heroes or whatever. This game offers you that. There's no doubt about that. There is a ton of customization in this game. But I just wish that customization was a little bit more clear as to how it worked to new players, but overall the complexity is pretty cool. And again, that barter system, the barter system itself, I don't think is a negative. I think it's interesting that there is no gold, that players can trade stuff, that the inherent value of things changes based on the demand and how frequently they drop or how difficult they are to make. That's an interesting aspect to the game, definitely. However, the whole vendor recipes and all this, and getting better stuff by knowing to trade in certain combinations of things, saving certain combinations of things, that I really don't like. But the barter system overall, I feel like isn't neither here nor there. It actually is kind of cool in a way. I kind of like it in a way, but again, I just wish it was a little bit more clear to new players how it worked. So there's a look at kind of some pros, some cons, and it's up to you about how this game works. Now, is it worth giving a try? Well, the game is free, and it doesn't really ask you for anything. So I say if you were looking for another Diablo-like game that has maybe even more complexity than, say, Diablo 3 and more customization and options, then try it out. I mean, just go to Steam, download it, and it won't be bugging you for money. It's pretty fantastic. Is this game, however, as good as some other options that you might like? For example, I'm thinking about taking a look at Grim Dawn, a game in early access that is just about to launch. And if this video gets a lot of interest, or people say in the comments they want me to look at that too, maybe I will go ahead and purchase that. It's a game, obviously, it's going to look a little bit better, and it's just going to have differences as far as the style of it. A lot of the people who worked on that game are also people that worked on Titan Quest, which was another kind of cool Diablo clone sort of game. And looking at it, I'm really interested in seeing, the differences and comparing those two games. So if you're looking for a Diablo clone, a game similar to that has a lot of customization, a lot of cool stuff that you can do, a lot of different builds you can try out, this game won't cost you anything. I say check it out. Is it worth, however, getting maybe a game that actually costs money, like Grim Dawn? Is it that much better? Well, like I said, if you're interested, let me know, and maybe I'll take a look at that too. But this has been a look at Path of Exile, is a free-to-play Diablo-like game with lots of customization, but just be prepared to do your homework if you don't want to screw up your first build. But even if you screw up your first build, guess what? It's not going to cost you money to do another one, which is why I'm going to say overall, I think this game is super awesome, even if I don't like the crafting recipes. And I know some people do, and maybe after playing the game more I would, but I do think it isn't very new player friendly. So thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this, go ahead, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and let me know if you'd like me to look at Grim Dawn as well, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.